Hi, Chris Orlob here, and welcome to P Club Insider episode 4, the February 2023 edition. This is where I answer your questions about selling and SaaS sales. Okay, I get asked questions every month on LinkedIn, in email, in the pclub.io online courses. And so once a month, I make a video of myself answering the most common ones to help you close more deals. Okay, so I'm only going to answer one question today, but I'm going to answer the most common question I've been getting over the last month, and I'm going to answer it with depth. Okay, I'm going to give you several techniques and tactics to address this potential situation. And here's the question. What do you do when the person you're having a discovery call with doesn't have power and might not even know the answers to some of the business pain discovery questions you're asking? Okay, I've done a bunch of trainings. I've done, looked at the questions through our online courses, LinkedIn, email. I've probably got asked that question 8 to 10 times just in the last month alone. Okay, there are a few ways to handle this, but the first thing to understand is champion development and the definition of a champion. Okay, John McMahon wrote in his book, The Qualified Sales Leader, and I'm paraphrasing here, the definition of a champion is somebody who is both willing and able to bring you to the economic buyer. Okay, if they're not willing and able to do that, then at best, they're a coach. They're not a champion. And so that's the first thing you have to understand is this person a champion, or do they have the potential to become a champion? Now, if they have the potential to become a champion, then your technique is to simply turn them into one. And how do you turn somebody into a champion? You find significant pain that they care about, and you do that through all of the discovery techniques that we've been talking about, both in the courses on YouTube and elsewhere. And then you convince them that they can solve, or you can solve that pain. Okay, pain is what leads to champions. Okay, now if you've done that, they're either going to become a champion or they're not. Okay, but that is the most fundamental answer to this question is champion development. And the key to champion development is a few things. Number one, understanding what a champion is and isn't. Okay, can they bring you to the economic buyer, and are they able and willing to? And number two, finding significant pain and convincing them you can solve it. If you do that with the right person, then they will become a champion. Now, if they're not a champion, or if you go through that selling motion and they're still not either willing or able to bring you to power, to bring you to the economic buyer, then you have to start to question whether this is the contact that you want to anchor this deal to. The answer is probably no. If you've done everything you can to turn them into a champion and they're still not there, you're going to have to find a different champion within that account. Okay, so that's the philosophical answer. Now let's talk about a few tips and tactics that can help you have this conversation and get access to power after you've done some of the fundamentals of trying to find significant pain and solving it for that person. Here's the first one. I call this who-based impact. Okay, as you're having your pain-based discovery, ask them who else is most impacted by this challenge and how. Okay, get them to go at length about other people that are impacted within their business and how those other people are impacted. Now, once they've done that, it becomes very hard for them to disagree with the next thing you're about to say, which is based on how they're impacted, does it feel fair that we include that person in the demo we're doing next Thursday, or whatever most relevant next step makes sense? Okay, it's hard for them to disagree because they are the ones who just mentioned how impacted that person is. So give that a try. Who else is most impacted by this challenge and how? And once they've answered, make your ask for getting access to that person. All right, tip number 2, set a social contract. Okay, this isn't just your typical upfront contract that you're probably already doing. This is negotiating access to power for something your buyer wants, such as a demo. And so let's say you just had a first call with them, right? You did discovery. Maybe you walked them through, a 3 to 5 slide deck to get them familiar with your company. And you get the sense that you might be stuck with this person, right? They're not power and you're going to have to get beyond them. Simply say this at the end of the call. As you're recommending next steps, you say, what I think we should do here next is schedule 45 minutes for me and you to walk through a demo together. Now, I have one objective of that demo. You mentioned your CMO is impacted by this challenge. My goal with this demo is to get you so fired up about what we do that you are then willing to sponsor a meeting between me, you, and your chief marketing officer. Is that a fair ask? At the end of the demo, can I ask whether or not I've achieved that? And they'll either say yes, no, or they'll start to push back. But at this point, you still haven't given the demo. So you have a little bit of leverage. Now, don't become obnoxious about it. But if they start to kind of, I don't know about that. Now it's totally within your rights and within your scope to say, well, wait a minute, you mentioned that your CMO is impacted and you don't necessarily have to agree to invest 45 minutes with them if they're not willing to make a reciprocal investment. In fact, I use that line almost word for word in many cases. You say, look, we're about to go into a 45-minute demo next week. It's going to take some prep work on my part. It's going to take the 45 minutes, and I am more than happy to make that investment, as long as that investment is reciprocated by you. And what that looks like is sponsorship of a meeting with you and myself and person of power. Is that a fair ask? If I get to the end of the demo and I haven't blown you away, you can just kick me in the teeth and we won't go further. Okay, so try that. That's your second technique. The third is simply to call it out. Okay, so if you've already done a couple of calls and somebody's still not willing to bring you to power, then simply call that out and get them to answer why that is. You say, look, I've done this deal cycle a lot, right? I've been through this same motion probably 50 times. And in my experience, the chief marketing officer or the chief information officer or whoever is your economic buyer is always going to have to be involved. When they're not involved, these deals tend to get crumbled. Now, I can only think of 3 reasons that it would make sense to not involve them. Okay, number one is you don't think I have enough credibility, right? There's like a trust issue here, which might be true, and I won't be offended if that's what the case is. But for whatever reason, you are not willing to bring me to that person because you don't think I have enough trust or credibility. That's one potential answer here. Number 2, you simply don't think that they need to be involved based on your experience getting deals done internally. Or number 3, they simply refuse to be involved. They don't want to be involved. They want nothing to do with this. So in my mind, it's only one of those 3. Either I haven't earned enough credibility with you, you don't think they need to be involved, or they just don't want to be involved or refuse to be involved. Which of those 3 is most true? Now, whatever answer they give you, you then simply start problem solving, right? If they say, well, this is embarrassing to say, but I don't trust you enough to broker a meeting with my boss, then you simply have that conversation. What do you need to see for me to earn your trust and credibility? Are we ever going to get there? Is this a tree that is worth barking up? If they say, no, I don't think they need to be involved, then you simply coach them, right? Try not to make it argumentative, but look, I get where you're coming from. You feel like they probably don't need to be involved. But I can tell you, having done this dozens of times, if they're not, you and I are going to spend several months together thinking that there's light at the end of the tunnel and this whole thing's going to fall apart. I can almost guarantee it. And then third, if they simply refuse to get involved, what that tells me is the person you're talking to, even though they're not going to realize it or admit it, is probably not a champion, right? If the person of power, the economic buyer, is refusing to get involved in any kind of deal with the person you're talking to, that means they don't fit the description of a champion. They aren't willing and able to bring you to power. Maybe they're willing to, but they're not able to because power refuses to get involved. And so you have a champion development issue. At that point, you might be talking about the wrong issue or to the wrong person, or more likely, probably both. Okay, so I hope these help. This is the most common question I've been getting. It's also one of the hardest things to overcome in B2B sales, right? Because it happens so often and it's such a kind of touchy motion to get through. But that said, I hope this video was helpful. Try those techniques. Make sure you're understanding what a champion is and is not. Make sure you're taking your contacts through a true champion development motion, and then try those other techniques that I taught you in this video. Now, if you like this video, give me a sense that you enjoyed this, right? Hit the like button on YouTube, hit a big yes, or type a big yes in the YouTube comments, or if you're getting this video via email, just respond to the email and let me know that you liked it. Type yes, convince me to keep doing these. I like doing these, and I just want to make sure they're valuable for everybody who's watching. So hit like, write a comment, let me know you're watching, and I will see you next month.